Today we got two massive, powerful monsters going head to head. Godzilla versus Ancalagon. Who's coming out on top? Let's find out. Godzilla is the king of the monsters, and is mankind's greatest ally and enemy. He's quite possibly the most unpredictable force on the face of the planet. Godzilla is obviously incredibly strong and imposing. I mean, just look at his immense size. He's over 300 feet tall and 60,000 tons. He's massive. Godzilla's been able to easily throw Kumongu, a 35,000 ton spider in outer space, pick up the 120,000 ton Super Mecha Godzilla as a baseball bat, and is obviously able to top buildings and destroy cities just by walking. And if he gets hit with lightning, Godzilla actually even gets stronger, and the limit for that really isn't known. Godzilla is surprisingly fast, especially for being of his size. From all accounts, the monster is able to move at hypersonic speeds and destroy fighter jets and dodge missiles. One of Godzilla's greatest assets is his durability, though. He is immune to all conventional weapons due to his thick hide, and able to take attacks on the largest and most powerful monsters on the planet. Godzilla also is arguably the greatest healing factor in all of history. He survived and regenerated from losing his heart, brain, being dismembered, having a hole drilled into his body by Mechagodzilla, and the Mechagodzilla shoot a cannon right into the wound, being hit with a city-sized meteor, and nuclear explosions. Throughout all this, Godzilla remained standing and healed from it in seconds. Then we got Godzilla's atomic breath. This is capable of devastating roughly 1/4 of Tokyo with one blast, will severely injure and kill other monsters, and Godzilla also has an ability called the nuclear pulse, which projects a field of nuclear energy from his body. Then Godzilla can also absorb radiation, which is capable of boosting his already insanely impressive power. So, thus we got one corner, the king of the monsters, Godzilla. But, entering the ring, in the corner, the greatest of all dragons, Ancalagon. Ancalagon, also known as Ancalagon the Black, was the greatest of all winged dragons. He was bred by Morgoth during the First Age and was the largest dragon to have ever existed in Middle-earth. After Arendelle made his journey to Valinor to convince the Valar to overthrow Morgoth and rescue the overmatched and defeated elves in Aeduin, the host of Valinor made war upon Morgoth and destroyed his armies. Facing final defeat, Morgoth unleashed his last and greatest weapon, a fleet of winged fire drakes, led by none other than Ancalagon. So terrible was their onslaught that the armies of the Valar were driven back from the gates of Angband. Their coming was said to have been accompanied by a tempest of fire and lightning. But Arendelle came out of the west in his blessed ship Vinglagat, accompanied by a myriad of the eagles of Mainwell led by Thorndor. The eagles and Arendelle dueled with Ancalagon and the dragons for a time. Eventually, Arendelle was victorious, casting Ancalagon down upon Thangdarim and destroying the volcanic mountains in his fall. The death of Ancalagon marked the end of Morgoth's final resistance. Ancalagon's size is not specified, but must have been colossal due to the destruction of the towers of Thangdarim when he fell on them, which are elsewhere identified as the 3 smoking peaks of those mountains. However, his size cannot be assumed to be larger than Thangdarim, since some powerful but comparatively smaller creatures are able to cause great destruction even in their death, such as Durin's Bane breaking the slopes of Seldil. Gandalf later mentioned Ancalagon when he was talking to Frodo about the One Ring, saying that Ancalagon's fire burned the hottest out of all the dragons. So, who wins? Well, let's break it down. Now everyone knows that Godzilla is the king of the monsters, the greatest kaiju out there. And today, we're going to put that theory to the test. We're throwing up against Ancalagon the Black, the greatest of all the winged dragons and the largest dragon to have ever existed in Middle-earth. So, who's come out on top here? Well, we're going to find out. And before we get started talking about Ancalagon, let's just dive into Godzilla a little bit here. Well, starting out, the big guy is strong. Insanely strong. I mean, Godzilla is capable of toppling skyscrapers and destroying whole cities just by walking. He's regularly able to fight against and toss around massive kaiju. The monsters weighed 20,000 tons with just one arm, overpower and push back against the 40,000-ton Mechagodzilla, even tossing Mechagodzilla over thousands of meters, and he's lifted up and thrown a 200,000-ton Biollante. He shattered small mountains, created earthquakes with each step, and Godzilla even spent a brief time over in the Marvel Universe, during which time he was able to match Thor in strength, forced Hercules to strain every inch of his being just to prevent Godzilla from stepping on him, and Godzilla was actually able to take out the Savage Hulk with one good stomp when the monster was first introduced. So yeah, he's insanely strong. However, when it comes to Godzilla, it's almost not even as much his strength, it's his durability. The big guy can take just about anything that you can throw at him. He's taking the best hit that Thor could throw at him when he was over in Marvel. He saw an attack from the Absolute Zero Cannon, which smashes all the target's atoms against each other. He's taken attacks from freeze weapons that can actually freeze nuclear heat. Has also survived space distortion before. He survived black holes, planet-busting explosions, and his cells are so powerful they can survive a trip into a black hole while simultaneously being bombarded by exploding suns. It's actually how Space Godzilla came to be. Doing Godzilla's healing factor, always healed from having his heart stabbed and his eyes and brain exploding. All within seconds, had survived and healed from attacks that were designed to destroy all the oxygen in an area or actually eat away at nuclear energy. Godzilla survived all of it, just kept on chugging. This is atomic ray and nuclear attacks. He's blown up King Ghidorah's head, blown up Mechagodzilla, and destroyed a miniature black hole. His spiral ray attack is a more powerful version of this attack, being able to defeat Space Godzilla, and if he wants to, he can just let out a massive nuclear pulse. He's capable of absorbing radiation from nuclear reactors and submarines, which has greatly increased his own power in the past, puts off enough radiation to leave lethal amounts of radiation wherever he goes. Then there's his burning form. In his upgraded burning form, while Godzilla is actually a world killer, being able to destroy the world either by destroying the atmosphere with the heat it's putting off, or just straight up melting down to the center of the earth. So yeah, Godzilla is truly powerful. Like powerful to a kind of terrifying degree. They don't call him King of the Monsters for nothing. But the real question here, what about Ancalagon? Well, let's start with the source, the Silmarillion. And here's what we got. Before the rising of the sun, Arendelle slew Ancalagon the Black, the mightiest of the dragon host, and cast him from the sky. And he fell upon the towers of Thingdarim that are broken in his ruin. That's it. Literally one sentence. Not a lot to go on there. So then the first question we need to answer here is, who was Arendelle? Well, he was a great half-elf who sought after the Valinor, the land across the sea, and went before the Valor, the ones who shaped and ruled the world, and asked them for aid from men and elves in Middle-earth to fight against Morgoth. The Valar, having listened to Arendelle's plea, went for a mighty host of Middle-earth, and overthrew Morgoth. Arendelle took part in the battle, riding on Vinglagot beside Thorndor and the Eagles, and it was his blow that slew Ancalagon. So Arendelle was essentially just a guy, and Vinglagot was his ship, a ship that was guided by the light of the Silmaril. And this is where we get to our first point of contention. Because I've heard it said before that Silmarils are equivalent to stars in our world. So Ancalagon is getting hit with the power of a literal star while he's battling against Arendelle. I've seen people say that he was hit with the power of 16,000 suns while battling against Arendelle for 24 hours. Problem is, none of that is provable. First off, you can't say that the Silmaril is comparable to a literal star. Because for starters, that's not really how cosmology works in Middle-earth. The stars in Ea are just points of light in the sky, as far as I know. And even the sun is just a glowing fruit that revolves around the earth, which was flat in the First Age. The Silmarils are beautiful jewels created by Feanor. And while they burn evil that touches it, that's just because they're that beautiful and contain the light of the trees. They're not laser gems. They can't shoot off power equivalent to the sun. Not to mention there's literally zero evidence that Arendelle actually uses the Silmaril for any kind of attack. Besides, there's also a precedent for how dragons are killed in Lord of the Rings. that we have to consider. Smaug, the greatest dragon living in the Third Age, was killed by an arrow. Glaurung, the father of all dragons, was killed by a sword. So it's just a massive swerve in the left field as the Ancalagon was killed by the power of 16,000 suns. We don't know how he was killed. There's literally just one sentence to go off of. But I'd say it's much more likely that Arendelle just flipped the Ancalagon on his boat and stabbed him with a sword. At least, that's what precedent suggests happened. Then there's a line about Ancalagon destroying the towers of Thangdarim as he fell on them after he died, with Thangdarim being 3 gigantic active volcanoes within the Iron Mountains. Well, let me ask you this. Did Tolkien really write that the Balrog has wings? Did the Balrog really have wings? And you're wondering why I'm asking that question in relation to this? Well, hear me out. If you honestly believe that the Balrog truly had wings, then Ancalagon was truly so enormous that he could break the peaks Thangdarim upon his fall, which means that Ancalagon is far larger than we could ever imagine him to be. And because of that, he very well could be a dragon that would be a proper matchup with Godzilla. However, if you don't think the Balrog really did have wings, and it was nothing more than Tolkien's style of writing to paint a picture of the Balrog's enormous shadow to give the reader a sense of what kind of danger the Fellowship was in when they saw the Balrog, well then, Ancalagon breaking the peaks is another example of Tolkien using descriptive text to give us an idea of the damage Ancalagon's fall had made. Which means Ancalagon has no more of a chance against Godzilla than Smaug would. And there's actually some precedent for the latter option, seeing as how Tolkien based his dragons more on Western mythology than Eastern mythology, and the dragons in European folklore weren't really that big. We know this because when Tolkien actually drew Smaug, well, Smaug isn't nearly as big as you'd imagine him to be based off the movies. We also know that Ancalagon had to have been at least small enough to fit through the gates of Angband. Also some precedent for Tolkien beings like Smaug and Durin's Bane, destroying things seemingly bigger than themselves in their death throes. But for the sake of the argument, and a more interesting versus video, let's just say that Ancalagon is absolutely massive, even if in all likelihood he isn't. Well, I still think Godzilla comes out on top here. Godzilla's tanked multiple nukes, the destruction of his own island, swam through the Earth's mantle, shifted tectonic plates, even started a mini black hole. He threw a monster across the horizon, threw a kaiju into the upper atmosphere, and has near instant regeneration. And he ripped his way through a mountain and shot over the side of a volcano effortlessly. His atomic breath was showing at least kiloton level force. And considering how other dragons have been killed with arrows and swords, I doubt Ancalagon has the durability to survive long against that, even at mountain size. And even with that size difference, well, it's kind of similar to Godzilla versus Superman. Godzilla's bigger, sure, and in fact he dwarfs Superman. Superman still has the power to damage Godzilla and take Godzilla's blows and win. So yeah, gonna have to give this one over to Godzilla. Godzilla wins. But what do y'all think? I would love to hear your thoughts. Sound off in the comments down below. Also be sure, the like button, subscribe button, turn on notifications from the Fanco Army, and I will see you next time.